We've all had adversity in our days. Let's take a moment and reflect on who we are and how do we behave amidst life uncertainties. In the spirit of Stockton's Center for Community Engagement and our Office of International Studies, I had the good fortune to take students and my daughter Maddie to Haiti this past summer. We provided medical care to the poorest people in the Western Hemisphere. We saw the victims of the earthquake of 2010, and we witnessed the very basic needs and surgeries that could be done here in the United States that were not afforded to many. This one woman in particular touched my life. I was asked to see her because she was, in fact, in excruciating pain. She was sleeping on the floor. She had no resources. And clearly, she was in a state of food insecurity. In our little makeshift clinic in a classroom right across the street in Jacmel, we worked with the Haiti Family Initiative and Global Therapies Group to bring a team to serve the individuals in the tent cities. This woman was the one woman that I did my house calls for each day, and I had the opportunity to realize that we had one thing in common. While she was living in a very difficult situation in Haiti, we were both survivors. My favorite place to be is either in the clinic with patients, teaching, or doing my research in integrative medicine. In 2001, when I realized that the art of healing and the incredible gift of blending Western and Eastern medicine could come together, I also knew that my love of teaching, clinical work, and research was where I loved to be. What I found, however, was in the context of treating, doing research for over 30 years in cancer rehabilitation, I became a patient in my own system. Felt very comfortable at the bedside. I felt very comfortable in the realm of doing my research. But what was it like to actually become the patient? Here I am with my daughter, who is 3, and my son, 1. In 2001, when I was pregnant with Daniel, I thought I felt something in my left breast. I sought the care of the greatest colleagues that were serving in OBGYN and was clearly not to worry about the situation. What had happened was that I went on and continued my pregnancy, delivered my son, and then asked for surveillance. I knew something intuitively was in my left breast. But it wasn't uncovered. Mammographies and ultrasounds clearly did not reveal anything suspicious. Simply go on about your life, and yet here comes the questions. What am I to do? Am I to trust my body? Who am I if now I am the one who treats others, now being treated myself? Establishing rehabilitation programs in different institutions, and especially at the University of Pennsylvania, where I was doing my postdoc at the time, I was in this juxtaposition of who am I as researcher in integrative oncology, and who was I as patient. And I was, interestingly enough, found a venue of what it was like to be a subject in a clinical trial. In 2003, I enrolled myself into a clinical trial looking at the sensitivity of MRI compared to ultrasound and mammography. And there, on the MRI, was the tumor that I had suspected all along. So the questions then became, what are we to do? After a lumpectomy, a second lumpectomy, the question was, do we take off the breast? Do we take off the other breast? How do we make the decisions? Do we have dose-dense chemotherapy, which will expedite the process of chemo, or do we do the regular every 3 weeks? The questions, in many respects, came out of what many folks thought that I should know the answer because I've been treating cancer survivors in rehabilitation, restoring their range of motion, imparting the art of walking again, improving cancer-related fatigue and managing pain. How was I to make my decisions? Well, it certainly wasn't an easy journey by any stretch of the matter, but I know that clearly in the incredible gift of navigating a system and realizing that my diagnosis was missed for that 1 year of moving through a pregnancy and then breastfeeding my son, that I needed to know the art of forgiveness. Yet in the system, did I think that I was going to be missed? Never did I imagine that. But yet we're all humbled. Healthcare and medicine is truly an art and a science. And with all the wonderful technology in the world, we have in fact created the inequities as well as the uncertainties. But certainty clearly comes in the journey as we have our community, our healthcare moments that support us in the journey. I clearly looked at this each step of the way with each of the 5 surgeries and the decision to take off my left breast to avoid radiation. I found that moving into a place of holding myself yet alone, because ultimately we are alone moving through the process. But I found the research that, interestingly enough, I had done on meditation and the practice of meditation took a new venue as I became the patient. Every day, being present in a non-judgmental acceptance way to the changes in my body, to the surgeries and to the side effects of chemotherapy, were certainly eye-openers for me. For years, I treated pain from severe neuropathy, and I understood, I thought, what patients were undergoing. But yet, in the deepening of seeing my own role as becoming a patient, further deepened the art of meditation and yoga in all of my surgeries as well as my chemotherapy. What's even more remarkable is that since my diagnosis 10 years ago, much research has been unfolding about the benefits of yoga in terms of managing distress and the benefits of meditation to be in authentic, abiding presence. And so as we move forward, my presence was also being a mother and a wife in the unknowing. The nature of the sea was healing for me and my family. The irony of the whole situation, of course, was that if you looked at me, and many folks clearly said, how is it that you, who eat so well, and you, who are fit, can get a diagnosis like this? My children would bring such humor, and all of the joys of our camaraderie and connection came out in what we know as to be great laughter amidst the uncertainty. As if that wasn't enough, when we turn patient from healthcare practitioner, and then we take off the jacket and relinquish that role, and then become a co-survivor, we now look through the lens of my husband's diagnosis. This is 1 year later, after I was diagnosed and completed all of my surgeries and reconstruction, and found a sense of what are we to do now that David was diagnosed with stage 3 head and neck cancer. My husband took a journey of a different kind, however. He took the surgical procedures in stride and turned to his surgeon and aptly said, "I watched my wife take off her breast to avoid radiation. Can't take off my neck where the surgical scar is that you see here. I'm choosing to go back to my roots. I'm going back to my Lakota people, and I'm going to take the spiritual journey and avoid radiation and chemotherapy." And as he did, he was embraced by the tribe, the Lakota tribe in Rosebud. Now let me tell you, that was not easy for me to send him off to a tribe where we had no cell connection, and I was left with our 2- and our 4-year-old, and here he was in his spiritual quest. It's pretty amazing that our marriage survived that, because in the decision-making, I too had to learn forgiveness again, because I was so concerned that he, in fact, was not going to finish treatment. But the spiritual depth from which he came from returned to the art of teaching yet again to the medical system. Please follow me. My wife would like for you, doctor, to have surveillance throughout my course of treatment. Yes, I received the letter dismissing me against medical advice, but here I am. Please follow me. And he was taken back into the system to follow surveillance, even though it was an uncompleted and uncharted treatment. So when we think about survivorship, and I think about the elements of all of the components that bring us to the now, simplicity in the sacred, the honoring of one's belief and spirituality. We know that when and while faith may move into a deep abyss, that's just a period of being present to knowing that we'll come out on the other side. So the simplicity in the sacred, unconditional acceptance. I had to accept my husband's decision, although it was quite difficult for me. I said, go to the mountain, dress in your loincloth, and in fact, come back for chemo and radiation. But he chose a gentler way. So that acceptance was key. Recognition of beauty. Even as I took off my breast, knowing that the changes in my body were still the art of embracing my beauty and the changes in my husband's neck and surgical procedures. Vitality in the present moment. While cancer-related fatigue might be somewhat overwhelming and there's sleepless nights from chemotherapy, the vitality is in the inner spirit of vitality. Intuitiveness and insightful openings. That intuition and knowing that something was there, trust in our bodies. Visioning for the future, knowing that there is life beyond treatment. Empathy for our humanness. But as we move to thriving into the art of surviving, moving into the vibrancy of thriving, we can really be present and mindful in a non-judgmental way. We can be in harmony of mind and body, revitalize the soul, inspire through self-reflection, value our positive affirmations, and evaporate thoughts of uncertainty. So the pearls of ambiguity are priceless. While we may not know in those aspects of our lives where we traverse and not quite know what's knocking on the door or what's behind the door, ambiguity gives us a place just to rest. We always want to know. We know that the art of resilience and bringing home the essence of the definition, which is the capacity to recover or toughness. We have this whole war on cancer, this intensity to fight it. I'd like to replace it with, rather than a toughness, a relinquishing of oneself into whatever emerges in the journey. And so as we think about post-traumatic stress in our lives from any event that we could recall, we know that research shows that we can transform that into post-traumatic growth. Promoting ongoing healing, adjustment, and resilience is really one way in which we can all move into any adversity in our lives. And as we have the good fortune of the theme from nurture and nature, nurture is forever healing in our lives. May we go to it and explore in the torrential downpouring and the calmness of the waves. So as I think about this wonderful woman and all of the great people that we treated in Haiti, I think about oftentimes, how is it that she is surviving today? And, in fact, who are we in our survivorship? How am I surviving? How are you surviving? My husband has survived. And I wish you all moments of knowing that you will thrive, fully prosper, and know yourself at a deeper way in this next adversity that you may or may not encounter. Thank you so much.